Well, I think we should at least begin to get started on the session. I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. Some individuals will still be coming into the session in the next couple of minutes, so we'll have some people added to the session over the next little while. People get connected with their Zoom. First, I'd like to welcome everyone to the seminar. You may know me. I'm your university librarian, Paul Graham, but I'm also a graduate of the Toronto Film School for their writing and for TV and film. And just by way of a very quick introduction before we get to the formal introduction, is that I came across a film just surfing on Amazon Prime, and the name of that film was Cosmos. And I started that film and was listening to it, and because I was doing some other things, but I couldn't stop being captivated by that film. I put away all my work and all the things I was doing, and I focused on the film. And the two things that I found directly from it was that I was absorbed into the story completely. I loved the story, and it gave me a whole bunch of great ideas for filmmaking. And as just serendipity would work its magic, we are connected to the creators of the film today, Elliot and Xander Weaver. And so they're joining us from Birmingham
Right,
today.
yeah.
Thank you
Thank you
very
very much
much
for No, thank you for having us. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here, and hopefully people find this conversation interesting. I'm sure we'll talk about many things.
Awesome. We still have some people trickling in, but I'm going to start the formal seminar right now. First, I just want to give a formal introduction to our guests so we have a little bit of background on them. At the ages of 23 and 21, Elliot and Xander Weaver received their first international TV producer director credits for their documentary films and were recognized with a Royal Television Society Award nomination for Best Factual Programming of the Year before the ages of 24 and 26. Having previously worked as freelance cameramen and editors on commercials for companies including PlayStation, Bentley, Smirnoff, BMW, the brothers applied their skills to their own independently produced and directed documentary productions. And between 2012 and 2015, they created 9 hours of documentary content focusing on NASA's Apollo program, including 13 Factors That Saved Apollo 13 and the Apollo 17 Experience, which were all acquired by international networks. Amidst their documentary work, Elliot and Xander also pursued their passion for films, creating 4 short films and with very limited resources, including Assault on the Senses and the 16 millimeter Twilight Zone-esque ghost story, The Mysterious Disappearance of M.M. Bayliss. You can find that one on YouTube. I watched it this morning. A very interesting one as well. But I know them from Cosmos. In 2015, the brothers diverted their attention from documentaries to produce and direct their debut feature film, the contemporary sci-fi Cosmos, no budget undertaking created over 5 years with a crew of 3 and a main cast of 3. The film was acquired by a leading global indie distribution, received a theatrical run of 9 cities in the US, and now is available worldwide, most recently on Hulu in the US. I watched it on Amazon Prime. With an estimated viewing count of surpassing 1 million hours, Cosmos has become a touchstone for independent filmmakers around the world about what can be achieved with limited resources. So right now I want to start off by first sharing a couple clips. So we're going to watch the Cosmos trailer, and then I'm going to quickly go into the Cosmos featurette for the making of Cosmos. It'll take about 4 minutes or so, and then we'll get back to the interview. And you may, depending on your settings, hear different sound levels. So be ready to up or decrease your sound level depending on how you're viewing it.
So what are you going to do this evening?
I don't know. I was thinking tonight might be my last night anyway.
Hi Rob, I'm Mike. And it's great to finally meet you. I listen to space. It's what I do. You can see the universe in a completely different way. You get to give up more of the secrets. What's going on?
I think I found something. It's on a very thin frequency. It's like nothing I've ever seen.
Mike, what is this?
Dave, it's Mike Webster. We got a target signal here.
Stand by. We're not hearing anything yet.
What, then scan the band?
Look, Mike, I've checked. There's nothing.
Are we the only ones getting this?
I don't see how that's possible.
We can't ignore this. We got to stay with it. Okay, guys, separate the antennas and spread out.
Mike, we're on station and ready to copy.
Let's do this.
You have no idea. No idea what's going on here.
We're getting some serious spikes here, guys.
Hold your position, Roy.
We're losing the signal.
I'll help you if I can. But it's really all on you.
We don't have a choice. We've got to do something.
It's the choice you make right now that counts. You make the right moves here, and you have in your hands the greatest discovery in the history of mankind.
Hold on! Hold on! Oh, right! Run, Mike, run!
I am Xander Weaver. I am the co-writer, director of Cosmos with my brother, Elliot.
I'm Elliot Weaver, co-director of Cosmos.
Okay, here we go. Cosmos came about because we were desperate to make movies, desperate to get going, starting our career as film directors. We left school, we wrote a film called Encounter. We needed a budget for that in the millions. We worked with financial advisors, assembled a team of industry professionals. We were close to raising the money for the film. But on speaking to investors, understandably, they were a bit concerned because we'd never made a feature film before.
We had industry experience. We were documentary directors, we'd made short films, we'd made music videos, but features are a different beast altogether. It was understandable that people were wary of our ability to deliver that film from script to screen.
Their advice to us was, go off and make a movie, which is a bit tricky because when you're trying to make a movie and someone tells you to go make a movie, you think, well, that's what I'm trying to do. How can I make a movie without any money? It's a chicken and an egg scenario, really. But that's what we faced. Cosmos was a seed idea to make a movie with the equipment and the resources that we had available, to not wait any longer, to not have excuses or reasons to put it off, and to just get going and convince people that we were capable of doing this. Action!
Well, that's an incredible introduction. Welcome, Elliot and Xander. Thank you for agreeing to this talk to the Toronto Film School.
Thank you very much for having us. That's, yeah, wow. Thank you for being very kind in your introduction and, you know, playing those 2 videos as well, just giving some background and some context as to kind of where we've come from and how we've arrived where we are, really. So looking forward to this.
Just a quick preliminary question before we jump right in, and that's, you know, was this sort of a dream of yours for a long time? Did you naturally come to this, or how did you stumble into this as a profession, filmmaking?
Since we were very young, we've been making movies. So the first film we made, I was 3 years old and Elliot was 5, and our dad, I remember we went out somewhere and we stopped off for a drink on the way home, and he said, when we get back, should we make a film? And we just thought, what does that even mean? I didn't even know who makes films. I didn't realize that was a thing. We got back and we got the home video camera out and we just put this film together, and since then we've just been in love with it. So yeah, definitely a passion, and always been, the dream has always been to direct feature films. So Cosmos was that step into that world for us.
Oh, that's great. That's great. For me, it was, for the Toronto Film School, it was, I had a bunch of crazy outback stories from my family, and I wanted to see if I could turn them into interesting scripts. For your movie, Cosmos, I was amazed at how well written the characters are for Cosmos, the drama that unfolds between Mike and Roy. There was this beautiful, like, perfect character arc of their transformations, and I thought, wow, this is a template how to build these compelling characters. And I'm just running from that perspective of writing. You know, where did you get the inspiration for these characters that you drew up?
Well, thank you very much. Obviously, that's incredibly complimentary. So thank you. The film itself, we wanted to make a sci-fi movie because you know, it's our favorite genre, and we wanted to explore this idea of we've seen this idea of people making contact or alien contact in films before, but generally it's on the scale of NASA or SETI, these big organizations, and rarely is it seen through the eyes of a few individuals. You know, maybe how it might happen in real life. So we realized that this film, it really would be more of a character study than like a big sci-fi adventure, or at least with limited resources and limited budget. The film would have to be more about the people than the spectacle. So yeah, we just set our hearts and our minds to writing characters that we felt that we could relate to, and that we felt we get a real kick as film lovers watching people grow and rooting for people that deserve their happiness and things like that. So I think our initial inspiration was trying to make a feel-good movie about friendship, about brotherhood between men, and what male friendship is like in the real world. And yeah, I think that was kind of our inspiration, our springboard, really, our starting point to develop the characters that met that need.
Now, just a mechanical question, but do you draw out like histories and psychological profiles, and did you do some fulsome analysis of each character? And
yeah, we do like to. We've got a great book. I'll try to find it. It's actually here. Here it is
On our desk. How convenient.
Great book, Teach Yourself Screenwriting by Ray Frensham. And we've written 3 scripts now, feature film scripts. And every time we've just followed the process. And a big part of that, as you've said, is digging into the backstory of each character and just trying to fill them out as individuals. Maybe that will never reach the screen, but it will inform how, you know, you think they might act in this certain situation. So we love doing that. Big fan of kind of digging in deeper into the characters and imagining what their lives were like before the film began.
That's always been my toughest part, because I always want to do the Shakespeare strategy. I need a villain. I'm just going to throw him in.
Yeah. Well, you know, it works. It works. It's like,
well, that's great. On the issue of the whole, essence of the project, making it with very little money, that must have pushed you to creative limits. to really surpass creative limits. So how did you approach this, like the producing and directing with next to no funding?
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those cases of we didn't, as that short snippet, the introduction of that featurette suggested, we had this bigger film that we wanted to make initially, and having to take that step back, we didn't want to find ourselves, okay, we'll make a film then, we'll make a smaller film, sit there, write a script, and then in 4 or 5 months' time, find ourselves going, oh, we've written another film that we need help with. So before we even cemented our ideas, we looked at the resources that we had available. We were like, okay, the car that's in the film is our family car. We've got lots of computer screens because we do video editing, and we've got computers, and just looked at what we had available and tried to write a film around those resources. And again, like, you don't have to find a location if you set a film inside your own car. Like, you don't even have to build a set. So it really was an exercise in going, what do we have and what can we do? And before we committed to any grand ideas of things that we didn't have, we went, is it possible to exclude these ideas from the film altogether and just be very, very rigid? And in fact, the end of the movie is the biggest part of the visual effects element of the film. And we didn't even commit to writing that until Xander here did some tests using visual effects software to go, actually, we might be able to pull this off. So yeah, we'll write that in and see what we get.
So lots of planning, lots of preparation before even starting production.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, just making sure it was achievable. Like Elliot said, we didn't want to find ourselves in a position where we're desperate to make that movie, desperate to tell a story, and someone's saying, well, you can't have the budget to do that, or your investors are saying, we haven't made a movie. So trying to write something that we knew we could achieve.
Well, I first of all, I don't know if I don't want to reveal too much, but I don't think it would be too much of a reveal to talk about that car. How did that idea come about? Like, do people actually do that? Create mobile labs like that?
Yeah, well, we'd actually always wanted to make a short film on this topic. We thought it would be a great, back in like 2011, we bought ourselves a couple of rolls of 16mm film, and we were thinking of something to shoot on it. And one thing that we thought would make a great idea would be an amateur astronomer sitting in his car at night, rain pattering on the window. He's got his headphones on, and something comes through. He's heard something from space, and that idea, I think, just stuck in our head. We ended up making The Mysterious Disappearance, which you mentioned at the start, as a Twilight Zone type movie. But I think that seed idea, when we were looking for something that could be achieved on minimal resources, we thought, well, can we set it in a car? Yeah, we can. What's the fewest number of actors we could get away with here to keep it compelling? 3 seems reasonable. Can we get 3 people in a car? That's the next question. With all this computer equipment and everything. But yeah, the amateur astronomy community is they definitely load up their vehicles and get out there into the field. Maybe not quite so kind of techie as we've got in the movie. We wanted to make ours into this like mobile kind of unit.
Like a spy van.
Yeah, like a spy van type experience. I do know of several
We've
people.
actually had some emails from people since watching Cosmos who are astronomers, or they're like amateur radio listeners, and they've gone, I'm going to do this. I'm going to build a desk in my car. And we're like, please send us a photo. This is very cool, So we're not cool about it. We love to geek out about these sorts of things.
Yeah. When you were putting this together, did you consciously think about themes and sort of sub themes? Like, there's that symbolic moments of sharing a drink. That happened that is very touching, and did you have this in mind, or did it come up naturally, organically, or how did you say, I need a theme and I'm going to?
Yeah, I'd say like the overarching overall theme, obviously, of the film, when you're setting out to write it, you want to know the story that you're telling, like beneath the plot, what's the actual message you're trying to get across. But I think when it comes to those little things, like sharing a cup of tea or offering mints or whatever, those are the type of thing I think you come to when you're writing, and you just go, we need something like that. We need a little mechanic in this moment that's going to just help tell a story without actually anything being said. So I think, would you agree?
Yeah, I would. I think the themes, some of the themes also present themselves to you when you're looking back at it. You go, wow, there's a real thread through this movie of sort of, we didn't deliberately set out necessarily to make a film about, so for example, male friendship and male bonding, and you know, how men can care for each other and want to you know, love each other as friends, as it were. But you look back and you go, wow, that's a very obvious theme that's within the film. So sometimes I think these things come through you when you're making something, and then you look back and almost see yourself in them and go, wow, that's kind of amazing.
The next question is more, again, connected to the second one and sort of general, is again on this idea of being a successful filmmaker. You know, was it a matter of finding solutions as you move forward, or did you have everything meticulously detailed? You know, what kind of cameras you were going to use, what kind of tech you could use. Maybe you could just talk about the planning process and in general how you made that a success.
Sure. I'd say we didn't have a set meticulous plan. It was very much a case of, what do we need? Okay, let's figure that out. You know, like, we need a smoke machine, right? We've got to figure out where we're going to get one from. Or when it came to post-production, we just take each phase as it came, and, you know, we very, very much learnt as we went along for some of the challenges that happened on the movie. We did do things like camera tests. So we already had the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera for our freelance work that we were doing. But we made the short film Assault on the Senses, again, that you mentioned at the beginning. That was a camera test, basically. We were going, would this work? Will this camera work in low light? Will it work under these kind of conditions that we want to make Cosmos under? So we did tests like that, and you know, the usual things that everyone would do in pre-production and getting prepared. But there was a lot of finding solutions, and I think every filmmaker can relate to that, right? Like, you know.
I'd say the one thing that we were pretty meticulous about is we storyboarded the entire film. So the very first thing we did after writing the script was to sit down and go, okay, the way we know we're going to make this movie, because we don't want to, you know, we didn't make Cosmos single-handedly because I guess we wanted to. We did it because we were desperate to get going and we didn't want to wait any longer. And knowing that, we knew we were going to be spinning lots of plates and juggling lots of different things like lighting and sound. And so the last thing we wanted to do was to be also going, what shots do we need? Like, how do we get the coverage to this scene so it's all going to come together and it's going to tell a story? So before we even got anywhere near the shoot, we storyboarded the entire film from end to end. And I think it was close to 1,100 frames we drew, did the whole film from start to finish. And then when it got to the day, when we were shooting, we knew we had the script in one hand and the storyboard in the other, and we knew that if we got this in the can, then we'd have something in the edit. And so yeah, we were pretty meticulous about the storyboard.
Yeah, but it gave us like a flexibility as well. I think sometimes some people feel that storyboards can stop you from being creative on the day, kind of thing. But we felt the opposite. Knowing we had that security and that we'd pre-planned all this, we put headphones on and listened to music back in the comfort of our home and come up with exciting, compelling shots to help tell the story. Knowing we had that as our grounding and our foundation on the day meant that if something popped up, we could go, well, we know we're safe. Let's grab it. You know, let's a bit more improvisational.
Yeah.
How did you cast for this film?
We cast, it was quite a while actually. We took a year to find these three guys. Again, because of the constraints of the film, we knew we needed a certain type of actor who was up for it, who was interested in being in the project, the way it was going to be made. And we also wanted guys that whose sensibilities and hearts were in the right place for the character. So we would give them a test scene and let them do their thing. We did video auditions over the internet. They would record a little camera audition and send it to us, and their natural instincts determined whether we felt they were in the ballpark or not. And we met each one of these guys actually out of a traditional casting route. Arjun, who plays Roy, he is a TV cameraman, so we've worked alongside him, and he was like, I like acting. We were like, I reckon you're good in this, you know. So he did an audition, and we were like, Arjun, you're great. Yeah. This is great. We're really happy. Arjun was cast first. Tom, who plays Mike, we actually met on a job. He was running a course, like a confidence course for young people, and he was great. And we thought, you know, he must be an actor because he's so good on stage. And then Josh, we found on Twitter, who plays Harry. They were all really interesting. Like Josh was in a play at the time. He was at drama school. He'd hurt his back. He'd been benched. He couldn't be in the play because his back hurt so much. But he was still video blogging behind the scenes on the crew. And we were like, this guy loves what he does so much that even though he's been taken off the cast, he's still, you know, video blogging it. He's got great spirit. So we did the traditional video auditioning, online casting calls and all that sort of thing. But actually, in the end, the three guys that ended up being the main cast we crossed paths with in different walks of life.
It certainly was a great selection because it worked so well. The dynamic of the characters worked so beautifully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We think they did a brilliant job.
So. They did. For all of them, it was their first film. None of them had been in a film before, and they bonded really well. And they actually they're friends now. Like outside of the film, we all still talk to each other. We all became friends, and we'd often watch them while we were rigging the gear or doing things. And they'd just be sitting in the car. When we shot the interiors of the car, we shot all those inside a garage, like a little studio garage. And for 30 days, they basically just sat in that car waiting for the shot to be ready, and they'd get out and stretch their legs, but they'd just be chattering away and having a great time. So they became really good mates, which was great to see.
I have one more question. I have tons of questions actually, but I have one more before we open it up to our listeners, the audience, to ask some students to ask questions. And that's, I love these little slick editing moves. They look like little mini montages. The setting up of the camera and the equipment at the beginning, these beautiful, I don't know what the technical term is, but it made me immediately reminded me of, say, Requiem for a Dream.
Oh, cool.
Those little moments, those slick little moments of audio and scenes. And I'm wondering, would that have been a result of your experience from the commercials, like slick editing, moving to different
yeah, I think probably, yeah, the background that we had before we made Cosmos definitely had a huge influence. I mean, in itself, the story itself was influenced by the fact that we were making documentaries about space in the Apollo program. We were in awe of the ground control team during that era, and we thought, wow, these people deserve to be on screen as like heroes themselves. Can we put these guys front and center? But yeah, when it comes to those little edited sequences, that little moments, definitely influenced by that kind of work we did, and documentaries as well. Like I said, you cut together these little kind of sequences to break up the flow of the show, and that definitely came in handy. But Edgar Wright is like a huge inspiration for that kind of thing. He does incredible little quick cut montages with this audio visual experience. Is just brilliant. So always influence there.
Yeah, I love those. They were so slickly done, I thought.
Well, thank you very much.
I'm going to try my best here to see if we have some questions. Now, this is opened up to everybody can ask questions, and that's through the question and answer Q&A little section in Zoom. You can press the little button and ask your question. Let me just review here if I can see a question. So it's a question, I think, about, if I'm reading it correctly, it's about money. Like a no budget film still involves some money. Yeah. So is there, how did you assess costs, essentially the amount of money spending on the short film?
Yeah, well, it's a feature film. Yeah, the calculation that we've done just, in a notebook as we went along, is about $7,000 US dollars. And that's just our own money. So it was, made over a period of 5 years, which is just over $1,000 a year, which is absolutely nothing. And it was the type of thing that we'd go, like I said, oh, we need a smoke machine. Okay, dip into the bank account, get a smoke machine. Oh, we need food for the actors. We need petrol for the car. Let's give the person who's lent us the garage some money for the electricity. So some software and things in post and everything like that. So it added up, but ultimately for, you know, a feature-length film to be made on a budget of $7,000, we feel is a real achievement. And you know, we use that term no budget because technically, I guess by industry standards, it's no budget. Right. But also it had no set pot of money stashed to the side designed for the pure purpose of making a movie. It was just our own money we were earning doing the work we were doing that we decided to put into it. So no budget doesn't necessarily mean, like you said, that we didn't spend any money on it. But yeah, that's all it was really.
I think we calculated, I'm sure I did a calculation at one point. We broke down, like, it obviously took 5 years and there were two of us. I think we worked out that it was like $1.10 a day or something.
Yeah.
You know, what the film cost. You know,
it was something crazy because there's two of us. And,
I think
I mean, we're technically still working on it as well.
Yeah.
So just continuing to promote it and get it out there to audiences.
Well, that's awesome. I'm going to look at another question, try to find another question here, but I'll toss you one out while I'm looking for another question. In Canada, we have a lot of tax credit breaks.
Sure.
You know, if we're using Canadian actors, if we're using Canadian professionals, and you get some pretty significant tax breaks. Was there anything like that in your context for afterwards being able to claim anything?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we have
some of those funds.
Sure. Yeah. Well, in the UK, we have the UK Film Council, and we have the BFI, and we have very similar film incentives here as well, which is, you know, there's obviously a very thriving industry, Hollywood industry come to Canada, and also a lot of Hollywood films come to the UK as well for similar reasons. And as independent filmmakers in the UK, you can access those kinds of money, development funds or film fund, completion fund, etc. And you can get rebates and all these sorts of things. But for Cosmos, it wasn't something that we explored. We did with Encounter, the original film that we tried to get off the ground. Those avenues were explored with the BFI and stuff, but it's quite a competitive, you know, for good reasons. There's a lot of filmmakers that want it. It's quite a competitive arena to try and get support for films, because, you know, you want to make something, they want to support culturally significant films and diversity and all these really important things. So it wasn't something that we explored for Cosmos, but it might be something
we probably should have done.
We probably
because we could have got some of that $7,000 back.
Yeah, but, you know, that's what we did. They probably wouldn't have, you know, approved of our methods.
There's an interesting question here from someone they're asking about a couple of things that you were able to do because you had no budget. I think a couple of things you weren't able to do. So I think it's more of a practical and philosophical question of, sure, were you not having a budget, were you free to do things that maybe a studio would have asked you to do that, you know, would have been more restrictive?
Yeah, I think the immediate answer I would say for what we couldn't do because we didn't have a budget was we couldn't make it quickly. You know, it took us 5 years, and certainly there are quicker ways to make a movie. But I think being our own producers, in effect, being our own money source, there were no requirements put on us. We had no pressures put on us by outside kind of sources. We weren't being told to change this or adjust your story. We got to tell the story that we wanted to tell. And, you know, granted, that may mean that it's not to everybody's liking or everyone's taste or whatever, but as filmmakers, it's kind of the ultimate form of expression. You really are just allowing yourself to tell the story you want to tell, no strings attached, and putting yourself out there and putting yourself into the film. I think restrictions are actually a great thing. So it's not always a bad thing that someone comes in and says, you need to chop this down or you need to change the ending. And it can be frustrating and difficult as creatives to hear that. But sometimes it pushes you to think of other solutions which can be better. And also from the standpoint of having no budget, it meant that we were forced to write a script that, you know, we could achieve with very little. And I think it's easy to think, well, you know, if I had $20 million or $100 million to make a movie, well, that would just be brilliant because I could kind of just do anything I wanted to do. And I actually think that can be quite paralyzing to have the sky is the limit kind of mentality, because, well, where do you go? What do you do? What story do you tell? But if someone comes to you and they say, Steven Spielberg popped up and he said, right, guys, I want you to tell a story with 3 people in a car overnight. That's your challenge, go. You go like, okay, let's figure this out. Let's work it out. And when you've got those kind of borders and that box to fit within, you can then try and you pour yourself into it and do the best you can at that particular task.
Oh, that's great. We have just a request to repeat the book that you use, the guide.
Yeah, sure. Here it is. It's called. Oh, it's the Teach Yourself series. Teach Yourself Screenwriting, and the author is a guy called Ray Frensham. I'm sure he's on the back there.
Yeah,
Ray Frensham.
It might have a different cover now.
It might have different covers, but we've got all the books. We've got like the Blake Snyder Save the Cat, and we've got Sid Field, and we've read them all, and they're all brilliant, and they all give different things. But for us, there's something about this book. It's very thorough, and it's very clear, and it's just a good fun read as well, and it works for us. I've gone very orange there.
You changed the white balance.
Sorry.
Awesome. How many cameras were used, and what kind of cameras?
We used one camera, so we did a single camera shoot, and we used the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. We had used it for freelancing, like we mentioned, but we were really impressed with it. Tiny camera, very, very affordable. That was the main factor, in all honesty. Very cheap, and it's just got a really lovely look. We think it's got quite a cinematic filmic look to it. We did some tests and we liked it, and so we shot with it. It worked perfectly for Cosmos because it was all in a car, and this camera is about this big and this high.
It's like an iPhone, really.
Yeah, so if we had a bigger camera like an Alexa or a Reddit or something like that, we wouldn't have got in the car, and we wanted to be in there with the characters to feel like the audience was an extra member of the team. So
it's a great little camera actually, and it's somewhat we feel a bit underappreciated by the filmmaking community because it's only HD, it's not 4K or 8K or whatever, and it's not particularly expensive. And but at the time when we were looking into it, they were using it as a little sort of second camera, crash cam on things like American Sniper. It was used on, and on Avengers it was used on. They just bolted onto the side of a tank, and they it only cost $600 or something. They just blew it up and they get a great shot out of it. But you sit there and you think, okay, well, Clint Eastwood's intercutting this with Ari Alexa, then little old us sitting in Birmingham, it's going to be good enough for us. So we love that little camera, and we still use it to this day.
Can I get the name of that again? That was the...
Yeah, it's the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. It's the original one, so it's 1080p. There's obviously the 4K and the 6K now, and we haven't used those, but they do look fantastic. But yeah, we've got the original pocket camera. Love it.
We have another philosophical kind of question, psychological maybe. After 5 years of putting the film together, would you have emphasized, patience, monastic style patience, or do you embrace a hectic, manic mindset? What was happening over those 5 years?
Yeah, I think actually when people ask us what the biggest challenge of making Cosmos, it was definitely the psychological elements of making the film the way we did, and in particular the duration, and even more specifically post-production, because post-production was a period of what was it?
It's about 28 months.
28 months of just Elliot and I working away, no other outside kind of influence, squirreling away at the computers, and it takes a lot of kind of sticking power, persistence, and there's definitely a cost. We both kind of went through difficult moments, like psychologically with it. So we have definitely adopted, like you said, a kind of monastic type mentality about being easy on yourself. Don't beat yourself up too much. Don't work yourself too hard. If you're not feeling it, that's fine, because you'll probably walk away, go for a walk, come up with a great idea, get back to it when you can. So, but we've very much learned that over the period of making Cosmos, and I think you got to look after yourself.
You've got to enjoy the process, because that's something I'm getting better at. I've been pretty bad at in the past, where I've been so excited about what the film can become, or what it's going to be like when it's done. It's going to be great. Oh, I can't wait for it to be done. and then actually you get there at the end, and you're kind of, if you sit there like this with your film on a DVD, and you're like, okay, it's done now, but it's all over. Like, so all you're left with is just a finished film, when in reality, as a creative, the best bit is really the process of creating it. So enjoy the journey, and then, you know, when you get to the end, then you can just send it out into the world and think about what you're going to do next.
That perfectly coincides with the question asked about advice for advertising a film. So you're done, you're happy, it's concluded, but then there's the next phase. How did you get it out into the world?
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole new chapter of filmmaking. And I guess as independent filmmakers in these days, we have access to things like streaming and online VOD. So we have access to audiences that maybe the generations of filmmakers before us haven't. And I guess as such, it's, you know, within our interests and benefit to be aware of how to market a film, how to get it to audience. So that's a whole new kettle of fish, really, that we had to teach ourselves. So we cut our own trailer. The trailer that you saw at the beginning, we cut that, and Xander designed a poster, and we put all the marketing materials together before approaching distribution, because we wanted to be able to put our best foot forward and present to them. You know, it's unlikely they're going to open an email and go, yeah, okay, I'll watch your 2-hour screener. You know, we can put the trailer in, we can put the poster in, and they can see what we're pitching. And also, I guess, in making it appealing to them, that's work they don't have to do. If the trailer at least is good and the poster's good, they're thinking, this is great, like, we don't have to do any of that. It's already done. So we put all our marketing materials together. We had a social media account through the whole production of Cosmos, trying to embrace the no budget absurdity of Cosmos. Like, we didn't try and put a veneer on it or a facade and try and look cool about it all. We had this Instagram account where we were just going, hey guys, look, this is us with our cardboard matte box, you know, and try to share that journey with other filmmakers who were looking for inspiration in the way that we had. And as such, we built up an audience that were ready for the film when it came out. And
they really helped us with promoting it as well, you know, spreading it around and sharing it. And we did spend some money on Facebook advertising as well, which was proved to be really, really successful and very, very useful.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely just an engagement with the community. We have our rule is that we get back to any email, any message on any platform that anyone sends us about the movie. You know, so if anyone watching has any questions that they want to discuss privately, then please just get in touch, because we'll answer everything. We want to be open and transparent.
That is very, very generous. Thank you. Because I'm sure people will have a lot of follow-up questions.
Well,
yeah, by all means.
We've benefited from reaching out to filmmakers, you know, particularly in distribution. When we were trying to secure distribution, we got on Twitter and we spoke to people who had success as filmmakers, and they were very kind with their time, and we would do Zooms or Skypes with them at the time, and we benefited from their experience and their time. So we just want to pay that forward, and we've had people message us about distribution or whatever, and we just want to be open and pay that forward. So we all benefit as a community of filmmakers. We're not in competition with one another, you know. It's good to support each other and share what we know, and we've got loads to learn as well, so we're still seeking advice from people.
Yeah.
A student wants to know about the festival experience. So is that you've got to be they're asking about the festival experience. I'm wondering, you know, is there a lot of marketing you're doing at those experiences?
Well, interestingly, this could be very interesting. We actually were rejected flat out from every festival we entered. So we have no festival experience to share.
We were aiming very high. We were aiming high.
Yeah.
Our logic was that, you know, the goal of going to a festival was to gain distribution, and therefore let's try and get into the biggest festivals, because we'll probably get the best distribution deals there if we can get in. Once we were rejected from those places, you know, like Sundance and South by Southwest, massive things. So it was a punt anyway, trying to get into those. We then analysed, you know, how worth it is it to go to this festival that people haven't really heard of, or will distributors be there? And all these different questions were floating around, and we thought, well, we could take the money we might spend applying for those festivals, put them into advertising and get directly to an audience. We can reach out directly to distributors instead,
which is what we did.
Which is what we did ultimately. and we were just actually, the film's been out now since November last year, and you know, just when COVID came along, we were starting to go, actually, let's reach out now to some specialized festivals like sci-fi festivals and places where we can connect the film with an audience. We might have a better chance of getting in, and just use it as an opportunity to engage with the community who like sci-fi or astronomy or whatever. Unfortunately, that's all changed because of everything that's going on. But we were looking forward to kind of enjoying that festival vibe and that festival experience and connecting with other filmmakers.
But I think they are. I mean, we've got friends, filmmaker friends of ours, who have had far more festival success than we ever have, and they make real festival, I guess, appealing films. You know, there's a certain type of movie that festival audiences love. Cosmos might be a bit more of just a straight down the middle, you know, family friendly, mainstream type movie, which is what we love and what we wanted to make. But from what we can tell from our friends, like, it's a great experience to connect with other filmmakers and get your work seen. And yeah, so festivals, we would have loved to have gone.
I think there are two, like you kind of touched on, there are two kinds of movies, and festivals are in reality designed to give a platform to films that might not find an audience in a conventional way. It might be a lot harder to convince people to watch that movie, but if they've got this award or they've been in that festival, you give it a shot. Whereas Cosmos is, like El said, it's fun, it's got a colorful, bright poster, it's sci-fi. People are willing to just go on Amazon Prime and go, oh yeah, let's give this a go, you know. So
what were the lights used in the limited space of for the car, for example?
Cool. Yeah. Well, the lights, the interior of the car was lit practically. So it was all desk lamps and computer screens. And instead of going, how can we light this car to make it look like it's lit with desk lamps, we just went, let's just light it with desk lamps. You know, digital cameras these days can allow you to do that and look at the monitor and have confidence. So
lots of bouncing light off pieces of paper.
Yeah.
We used iPads as well. We just got an app which allowed us to pick a color and brightness, you know.
Yeah, just put it, you know, if we had the computer screen sort of the edge of frame and shot like this and the guy's typing, we'd just have an iPad balanced against the computer screen, faking that glow, you know. And we had, once we went down that road, we started to have real fun with green light and underlighting and stuff like that. And then for the moonlight coming through the background, we had just LED panel lights, bicolor, tungsten and daylight, which we've got 3 of them, which we've had from our freelancing work for doing interviews for documentaries. And that's what we used. And in fact, for the night exteriors also, that was it. We had 3 LED panel lights. So all the forest sequences that you see and everything around the car, it's just those battery lights. And that, again, that was incredibly limiting in one respect, because you're in this huge woods going, how are we supposed to light? You know, if this was a Hollywood movie, they'd have HMIs coming through the leaves, and there'd be all these fingers of light, and it would look amazing. But we don't have that. So, what do we do? You know, aesthetically, how can we turn this to our advantage? Let's try and make it look like a dark, creepy woods with little pockets of light. So yeah, mainly 3 lights, and then just iPads, torches. Sometimes we lit some of the exteriors with the headlights of the car. We literally just put a reflector in front of if the guys were sitting on the bonnet, there's some scenes where they're sitting on the bonnet talking, we put the headlights of the car on and then just bounce that light back at them. So just trying to be as resourceful as possible.
Oh, that's interesting. Very interesting. Another question, what software do you use for the editing and special effects?
Cool. Editing, we cut on Final Cut Pro 7, which again, when we talk to some filmmakers, it kind of catches them a bit off guard, because that is an old piece of software now, came out in 2011. But it's what we had. The whole ethos of Cosmos was to look at the equipment that we had and not chase our ideal, like, oh, I'd love to shoot a cut on Final Cut 10. Well, we didn't have it. So we used what we had. So we used...
Also, you know, ultimately, let's all be honest here, it doesn't actually matter what you're cutting on. It doesn't matter what you're shooting on. In reality, like, if you boil it down, you could take a world-class editor and give them Windows Movie Maker, and they would be able to cut something brilliantly. So,
well, Final Cut 7, Parasite, that won the Oscar this year, was cut on Final Cut 7. So, if anyone's in any doubt of its relevance, it's still a great piece of software. Cosmos doesn't have any fancy wipes or anything. It's just straight picture cutting. There's nothing fancy about it. Final Cut can still do that. But for VFX.
Yeah, for VFX, I used Blender, which is a open source VFX package, just incredibly powerful. Growing from strength to strength. It's free. You can use it for anything you want. And there's so much documentation online, and there's a brilliant community. So if you're interested in VFX, definitely check out Blender. After Effects for compositing. We graded in Apple Color. It's all like very accessible stuff, really. Nothing extortionately expensive or out of reach of most filmmakers.
That's incredible.
In fact, DaVinci Resolve, which is free now, you can get, I think there's a free version, like a student version of DaVinci Resolve can be downloaded, and that actually does cutting. I mean, you'll all know this anyway, right?
Yeah,
Cutting. Yeah, of
you
course.
know what it is. Just shut up.
There's this program called DaVinci Resolve. Thank you. Exit.
There's a question about design of the poster.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take?
We did 2 posters in the end. There's like a 3 people standing kind of poster, action type pose, and then there's another one. But they took about, I'd say they took about 2 weeks each to do. I did those myself and kind of did a hand painted over paint thing. Got my stylist in there and really got in there and made it look like a painting. We're big fans of that kind of Drew Struzan, Amblin type of artwork for posters, and we wanted to try and evoke that vibe. This was like when we set out to make Cosmos, we were like, we wanted to make a contemporary Amblin film, you know, like a Spielbergian movie, and we wrote it in like 2013.
Yeah.
And during the process of making it, obviously Stranger Things came along, and you know, everyone got this appetite for that kind of 80s nostalgia. And our movie's not set in the 80s, but it kind of feels warm, and it feels like hopefully it feels like it's got that DNA. And so with the poster, we wanted to evoke that feeling. But about 2 weeks per poster, really. Love doing that.
There are questions I think you've answered previously about, you know, advertising costs and marketing processes. Did you have anything else you wanted to add about that process?
I think the distribution route that we went, we partnered with Gravitas Ventures, and they're a great distributor. They are sort of a staple in the indie community. Their strategy is to leave that marketing process up to the filmmakers, really. They go, you know your film better than we do. You know your audience better than we do. And instead of us, you know, misguiding the marketing, they kind of leave that up to the filmmaker, which actually we were really happy with, because we didn't want our film to be mismarketed. We didn't want to, you know, a poster to turn up and us go, oh gosh, you know, that doesn't sell our film. That's not what our film's about. So some distributors, I think, will be very hands-on in that marketing process. But I think in the indie community, because of the finances, the level of finances involved, I think a lot of that marketing is generally the responsibility of the filmmakers, the producers, and the production companies. So yeah, committing resources and time and a bit of money to that. As Xander said earlier, we didn't spend anything on making those resources, but we did spend time, and then we did spend a little bit of money on Facebook advertising and trying to push that film closer to its release. I don't know whether that was a very good answer, really.
There is a question about post-production again, and audio. You know, again, are you doing it? I think you answered it with your previous question. I'm going to ask this again. You know, did you do it yourself, all the audio mixing? And the question here, does it have to have been in 5.1 for release?
Yeah, okay, yeah. So we did do the sound mixing and the sound design ourselves. I did predominantly I did the sound design. That took 18 months, 5 days a week for 18 months, pretty much solid, maybe with the exception of Christmas and like my birthday or something. Just don't make a film this way. But so yeah, I did the sound mix, stripped everything out other than the dialogue, so all the cloth, all the keystrokes, everything's Foley, footsteps, everything. Not just the obvious things like the radio signals and stuff. And we did that in Final Cut 7. Again, not a particularly great way of doing it, but that's the way we did it. And we did a stereo mix initially, because our thought process was, well, this film's probably going to end up online. It's probably going to end up on a VOD platform or a streaming platform and just play in stereo. But then when we got closer to distribution and a theatrical option was put in front of us, we were like, oh wow, we should do a 5:1 mix for this, and see what that sounds like. And we also did that conversion. We took the stereo and all the stems and made a 5:1. I don't know whether 5:1 is necessary for release.
No, I don't think it is.
I don't think it is. I don't. Well, here's an interesting thing.
It can just be like automatically. It would automatically just run through 5:1 setup.
Yeah. Well, we were never asked when we signed our distribution deal. We were never asked what the film was shot on. We were never asked what resolution it was in. We were never asked whether it was 5:1 or stereo. And that wasn't just the distributor we went with. That was every sales agent and every distributor we talked to. They watched our screener. They didn't care what camera we'd shot on. They didn't care less that it was. They couldn't care less whether it was in 2K or 4K. It was HD, 1080p. They didn't care. So our experience has been that the focus is on the products, on the story and the storytelling and the quality of the film, rather than the technical requirements of that film. That was our experience, at least, anyway.
Oh, thank you. A question about dialogue. Was it done in the field, or did you guys use ADR?
Yeah. So the majority of the movie is location sound in terms of dialogue. So probably about 85%, maybe more actually, of the film is stuff we recorded on the day. The dialogue was great. It was quite controllable and manageable. We weren't changing location, and we were dealing with ultimately a car for most of the time. So positioning the mics in a good place each time. And then we did pick up some ADR where we had, interference, like clothes might have rustled over an important piece of dialogue, or, it didn't quite pick
leather
up.
chair squeaking every
Lots of squeaky leather chairs. So we just got the actors back. We had the car, of course. We drove to where we even filmed some of the exteriors, sat in this open space, but in the car, and we recorded the ADR, which I can't remember now which bits are ADR and which bits aren't, because it really has sewed together really nicely.
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges of ADR is matching the acoustic signature of a perfect sound booth to the noisy, messy location. But we spoke to a sound guy, and he was like, well, if you can get your actors back to where you filmed, it's very inconvenient for most films, but if you can get back to that location and just record the sound in the same place, then you're most of the way there. And I just saw a question there about the mic, that we only had a boom mic. That was it, a Sennheiser 416. We didn't use any radio mics. We didn't use anything else like that. There was just one microphone on the film.
We have enough time for maybe another quick question. There was a previous question asked about the challenges of filming in the car, around the car, the whole camera angles. And was that tough or challenging? Did you have to work through resolve anything to get good shots?
It was really hard. Yeah, it was really hard. I'm not gonna lie. It was a lot of, we should have done like some heavy duty yoga before we started making this movie, because we needed the flexibility of like a cat. It was reaching in over chairs. It was collapsing them using magic arms to rig. We had a 1 meter slider, which allowed us to, we'd use it as a slider, but also as a kind of mobile tripod. Really, we could bolt the slider in place inside the car, and then we had somewhere to rig our camera. That it was a huge challenge. And if you watch the full version of the making of featurette, you'll see some more footage from being in the car, and we use things like paint pots to prop camera equipment up and all sorts of crazy no budget solutions. So
well, there was the 3 actors, and then there was us.
Yeah, it was
people hanging in through windows with the mic.
Very cramped. And
but we wanted to shoot it that way. We didn't want to put it on a long lens and film through windows and have the sort of the visual aesthetic of that you're an observer to this. You're not sitting back watching these guys. We wanted to get that camera in the car and make you the fourth character in there, really.
Oh, that's fascinating. I want to be very respectful of your time. You agreed to the hour, and so we should end on that to be respectful to everybody's time. But I cannot thank you enough. I would talk to you for another 2 hours or 3 hours. I have so many questions, and I think you very generously offered that if people have questions, they can send them directly to you. Is that through your YouTube site where the feature?
Yeah. So yeah, if you head over to Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, just search Cosmos Movie, we will pop up a page or whatever. Just drop us a message, or if you want to learn more about how we made the movie, or if you want to read the script or listen to the soundtrack or anything like that, we've got a website, cosmosmovieofficial.com, and there's just reach out to us, get in touch. We're happy to talk.
That's great. Thank you so much for offering us this time and speaking to our students. It's been a great pleasure. I've enjoyed every moment.
Well, thank you. So
likewise, yeah,
been
likewise.
great. It's gone quick. I can't believe it.
Yeah. Well, you have a very pleasant evening, and I'm sure you're going to have lots of students sending you follow-up emails. Be prepared.
We're here. We're ready. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and hopefully we provided something interesting.
Thank you.